Good morning, friends. Myself Sagar Kumar. I welcome you to my Gyanlog YouTube channel. So today we will discuss how to use Tooltip in AG Grid, right? So we are getting a request from our viewers that we need to make a video on Tooltip. So I came with this video. So let's start. So if you see in my screen, we have a Visual Studio Code open, right? So in that Visual Studio Code, I have a Angular project, and inside that I have a one app directory, right, and one asset directory. So if I go to the app directory, right, so you will see we have a one app component, right. It is same component that we got whenever we are going to make any Angular application. So let's open this HTML file. So it is a file which have some HTML, right? And if you see the TS file, we don't have anything right now. So we also have a one more file, that is module.ts file. So whenever you create the Angular project, you will also get this file. So let's start the video. So if you see in my package.json file, I already installed Angular library, right? And I also installed ng-bootstrap as well, plus bootstrap. So we will talk about all these three libraries today, right? And let's start importing the AG grid module. So for that I need to write AG grid module. So we got this module from @AGgrid-community. So I misspelled import, let me correct it. So this package will we got from AG-grid-community/Angular. So I need to put it inside the import. So by doing this, we are able to use a AG-grid library. So let's delete this HTML, right? So I will add AG-grid Angular. So this is a selector we need to use to build the AG-grid, right? So I can provide here some static inline HTML. So I will provide height 500 pixel and width 100%, so that our grid will take my all screen, right, as a width. So I saved it, right? So next step, what we need to do, we need to add some variables. So I will add here grid options. So actually grid options is a configuration we need to pass to the AG grid. So what actually our columns and rows, right? So I can write it should be grid options type, right? So I can import this grid option from AG grid community core, right? So next, what we need to do, so we need to add one more variable named AG grid module. So we need to create this variable to provide which type of row model we are using. So I can pass client side row model, right? I saved it. So I need to pass these two as an input to this AG grid Angular. So I will write modules, right? So this is the input. So I can pass AG grid module to this input to the AG grid Angular, and second one is grid options. So grid options. So I will copy from TS file and put it in my HTML file, right? So by doing this way, we can able to achieve AG grid. So if you see, I did not pass any configurations, means we did not pass any columns. So for columns we can use column def. So for timing we are making empty, and row data, that should be empty for timing. For for time being, right? So if you see the browser, right? So let me show you the browser. So it will show the no rows to show because we don't have any data in the Grid, right? So let's go back to the Visual Studio Code. So I can use this constructor to provide some columns, right? So for this I can call one method to get columns, right? In this method you can use any STT call to get the data. So I can use some static variables. So I can pass one array which have a header name. So I will make header name should be column1 and have a field. So for header 1, respective field attribute is field1. I can use that. So I will copy. I can make 2 more columns like same way. So I can give them name column 2 and column 3. Like this way, right? So if you see in browser, right, when I save this and I go back to the browser, right, and you will see the columns heading is there, right? So now come back to the code again. So same way we need to do the for rows as well. So to add rows I will use to get rows, right? And similar like in above, I is also array. So here I can pass field1 should be a1, field2, you can use any name, right? Instead of field1 field2, same thing you need to pass in here as well, right? Whatever you are going to pass. So v1 and field3, right? That is a third variable and third column. So value is c1. Like I will copy this array object and paste it so that we can add few more rows. So here I can change the values of columns A2, P2 and C2. Similar like in third row as well, A3, P3 and C3. And I save it. If you go back to the browser, right, you will see all 3 rows will come once I refresh. So it will not come because I will show you why. So let's go back to the code. So we made the method but we did not call, right? So I need to call. So get options dot row data, and here we need to go to get rows. So once I saved it and go to browser, right, and refreshed it, right, so you will able to see the 3 rows like this. But one thing you found here, right, we don't have any style to this grid. So let's go back to the code again. So if you go to the style.css, right, I already implemented the few themes that came from the grid only. So I can use this, right? So I can add class ag3. So once I saved it and go back to a browser, you will see, so there is some styling will come, which is coming through the our ag grid theme, right? So now we are using ag grid theme. So if you see in the browser, right, so I have one issue here, right? That is the columns taking the full width, but our rows is not taking the full width, right? So let's to solve this problem, let's go back to the code. Okay, so here if you see, whenever the grid initialized, right, it will send the one event whose name is grid ready, right? I can implement that. So for implementing, I can use grid on grid ready. So whenever grid getting ready, so this method getting executed. So let's add on grid. Let's go back to the TS file. So in TS file, I can implement this method. So we have even method in edgegrid that comes in edgegrid options dot API dot size column to fit, right? So what this method is doing is method is taking the full width for the rows, right? Whatever width we have passed, it will divide the whole width within the columns. So let's save it and go back to the browser, right? And you will see, so now all rows coming as a full width. Okay, so this is the one. Let's go back to the code again. So in this video we are going to show the tooltip, right? Not the data and rows and columns and rows. So our main thing is that how to implement the tooltip. So to implement a tooltip, right, so we need to do one thing. Let's go back to the browser again. So in this, if you see in the browser, right, so we have to implement a tooltip on the first column. So what we need to do, so I can pass the value from the tower one method to get row only, right? So as a tooltip attribute, whatever the tooltip attribute is there, I need to show as a tooltip in this column, right? So let's go back to the code. Okay, so I will add one additional attribute here. Name is tooltip. So I can column one tooltip one, right? Similar way I can copy it in other rows as well. Okay, so I can change here tooltip 2 and tooltip 3, right, and save it. So what next we need to do, we need to implement cell render framework in first column, where we need to cell render framework, right? And here we need to pass the one component. So let's start to create one component. So command for creating component is ng-gc, g for generate and c for component. So I can name it custom tooltip, right? So once this command is getting executed, it will create a one component within the app. If you see here, so components getting created. So I can use this component here. So I can add a custom tooltip component, right? And I saved it, right, and go back to the browser and refresh it. If you see in first column, we did not sign anything. Previously it's come A1, right, A2 and A3. So now it's coming as black. Let me inspect. Whenever you doing like this, you will get this error, right? So error is here that component is not in entry component. So what we need to do to resolve this error, let's go back to the code. So we need to go to the app module, right? So where we added the edgegrid modules, we need to do with components is a method which contain array. So we need to pass this component, custom component, and this, by doing this, the error is getting resolved. So let me save it and go back to the browser again, right? If you see, custom tooltip is coming here, not here. Okay, so let's see. So here some more error. So what we need to do, whenever we are going to implement, right, that cell render component. So we need to do few things before checking. So instead of on init, we need to implement I cell render interface, I cell render angular comp interface, which have two methods. Instead of in ng on it, we have a ag init, right, which have some params as attribute, and second is refresh, which will return the boolean value. So I will return false, right, and save it. If you see in the browser again, right, so whatever error coming before is getting resolved now. So we will see the custom tooltip works here. Why it is coming here, let's see in Visual Studio Code. So you are able to see the custom tooltip work because our in HTML part we have a custom tooltip. So I can change it. So I can provide something. Let's go back to the TS file first. So here I'll add the params variable, right, which should be type of any, and whatever coming from the ag init, right, so I can assign back to this variables. I will show you what we have inside params. Let me console for you. So once we console it, and right, sorry, so here I can console it. Let me check in browser what we have in console. So if you see in console, we have a 3 times rendering, right? So inside that we have a value, right, params dot value a2, a3 and a1. So let's go back to the code again. So what we need to add in HTML, so get the previous value, we can add params, right, dot value, and save it and go back to the browser. You will see we have like same value as previous, a1, a2, a3, but our problem is still not get resolved because we need to show the tooltip on hover of it, right? So whatever coming through the that tooltip attribute we need to show here for each row, right? So what we need to do next, we need to go back to a Visual Studio Code first, right? And in the beginning of this video, right, I showed you one thing in package.json, right? I said that I already installed the ng-bootstrap, right? So if you see here, right, ng-bootstrap, so we have a dependency. If you are using Angular version 8, right, so we need to use the ng-bootstrap version 5 to 6 only, right? So between 5 to 6 we need to use for Angular 8. For Angular version 9, right, we need to use bootstrap version more than 6. For Angular 10, right, we can use ng-bootstrap 7 or 8, right? So similarly, we have a CSS dependency as well. If you are using Angular version 8, we have a dependency on 431, similar for Angular 9 and 10, right? So let's see. Let me show you in browser, right? So this is the one I'm talking about. So in Angular 5, right, so we have a dependency for ng-bootstrap 5, we have a dependency for Angular 8 and bootstrap 4.3.1. Similar like for Angular 9, we have a dependency on ng-bootstrap. We should need to use only version greater than 6 for Angular 9, right? Similar like we have in CSS. For Angular 10, which is latest one, right, we can use ng-bootstrap version 7 and 8, and which is compatible here, right? Otherwise you will get some semantic errors. So let's go back to the code, right? So let's see what we have in package.json. If you see in my package.json, we have a Angular version 8 and we have a bootstrap 4.3.1 and we have a ng-bootstrap version greater than 5, right? So we are good with Angular 8. Let me save it, and to use that ngb tooltip, right, so I can use, instead of tooltip we can use ngb popover, right? So here we need to implement one thing, we need to import one thing, ngb N should be in capital, ng popover, module, right? So this come from ng bootstrap, right? So I need to add this module inside imports, right? Now let's get started for the tooltip. So I need to go my HTML component, right? So I need to add ng popover, right? So we have to pass the value params dot data dot tooltip, right? Let me go to a ts file and check what is the attribute we are using. Tooltip. Let's copy it and paste it here, and I will show you how we get these things here. Whenever we are using a tooltip inside ng inside the execute unit, policy container should be body, right? So container element should be body for popover. Let's save it, and let's go back to the browser what we have. So I'm going here. If you see, so currently there is no hover, but when we click on A1 we will got the tooltip, right? So our exact behavior we need is that we need to show on the hover, right? So for this thing we need to go back to the code again, right? So for hover we need to use the triggers, right, for ng. So here we need to pass mouse enter and mouse lead, right? Save it, and let's go back to the browser again and refresh and hover on it. See, whenever you hover on the first column you will see the tooltip whatever we have in our tooltip attribute that we are passing in app component.ps file. Let me go there. Yeah, so in first row we have a column 1 tooltip 1, and second row we have a column 1 tooltip 2, and column third row we have a column 1 tooltip 3. Let's go back to the browser and show you what we are able to see here. First column, first row, column 1 tooltip 1, right? And same for column 1 tooltip 2 and column 1 tooltip 3. So now guys, this is a way to implement the tooltip popover in HGrid, right? I hope you got the lesson how to implement while doing these steps, right? So if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and share with your friends. Thank you, team.